Welcome to Pivot Parenting, where we help parents of teens overcome regret and disappointment to find peace and connection in every situation. I'm Heather Frazier, your parenting expert. Journey with me to discover effective parenting tips, improve family relationships, and build a brighter future for your kids. Buckle up, things are about to get better. Dear Mom, I hate the letter you wrote me. It's passive-aggressive, just like you. I only ever wanted your love, the kind that's okay with me not being perfect, not who you wanted me to be to make you happy and look good. You taught me to hate myself because I'm flawed, and being flawed is unacceptable. I can never be loved or worthy because I never have been. It's your fault I was with R. He's as good as I'll ever get. I guess I'll just be alone. I hate you for this. What was so wrong with me as a little girl, or ever? Why didn't you see how hard I was trying? How could you be so cold to your own child? Why did you teach Brad to reject me too? I hate that I will never hear your answer to any of my questions. You allowed me to be mistreated by Brad and his minions. You never protected me. You were complicit. I'm done being a victim. I'm letting all of you go. Despite it all, I'm trying to be a good person. I have a job that I love and they value me. I'm having a baby, a girl, and you'll never get to make her feel less than. I'm going to do everything that you didn't. We'll be poor and happy and she will be so loved. She will never know anything about you, not your beliefs, your bread, your money. She will only know my goodness. I will never bake your recipes. Everything about you died with you. I will make sure of that. Good riddance, Avis. Welcome to today's episode of Pivot Parenting. I decided to give you a sneak peek of my book, Mom Got Jesus Wrong, Hallelujah. It's the story of a girl who finds Christ despite religious harms. And what I just read to you was a letter that our heroine Avis was told to write by her therapist. This book reads as a journal. Avis's journal. Her mother embodies religious harm that happens whether we like it or not. Her brother Brad embodies patriarchy, and there are good figures and bad figures that we have in our lives at play that are characterized in this book. And I'm so excited for you to read the book and see all of the different characters that exist in our world played out in one succinct character. The journal is about 11 months long. It is how she unpacks all of the harm that was described as Christ, essentially how Christ was weaponized to try and control and hurt her. This happens in every religion and culture, whether it's the name of Christ or some other higher figure. And guess what? It doesn't have to be this way. I'm so excited for you to read this book. And right now I have fantastic bonuses that go away once the book is published in October. So if you have yet to order your copy, go to heatherfrazier.com. I have links to Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Bookshop, wherever you like to buy your books. I've got a link there. And then you go back to my website, you put in your purchase number, and you get an insider interview with me that you can watch. It's a video. I hand-selected a playlist on iTunes and Spotify that you're going to get. Facebook membership. Super fun community. I post inside information about the book on there. And we can have great conversations about anything that you're learning in church or trying to unlearn from church. And then there's several other bonuses. I think there's 6 in all. You've got to check it out. Again, the book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. All the links are at heatherfrazier.com. So I invite you to go get a copy for yourself. for your friend, for your mom who maybe needs it because she got Jesus wrong, whomever you think would benefit from having a better perspective on Christ, this book is for you. So if you need a few copies, I also have bulk orders. This means 5 or more books, and you're going to get upgraded into VIP bulk packages. And if you have thought about coaching with me, there is even a package that includes free private coaching with the purchase of a bunch of books, which is really exciting. So as you check that out, let's talk about something that has been heavy on my heart for many, many weeks. I think it goes without saying that right now in the world, things are just a little crazy. And it kind of doesn't matter what nation you're in because the world is a very small place when you think about how we all affect one another, whether that's politically, religiously, how and what kind of foods we get, how we get them, how much of them we get, what they cost. Same with construction. It's all one big community, this earth that we live on. And I happen to be in the Western United States. And it's a little crazy. We've got a lot of unrest. And with the current administration, I see a lot of things on social media and in the news and in family conversations. And this is what I want to address today. And what really got me thinking on this the other day, this was several months ago. I was scrolling Instagram as one does while I eat breakfast. And somebody that I follow said, can you be friends with a Trump supporter? Like, I have this friend, they like Trump. I don't think I can keep them as a friend. And it really got me thinking. And this is also the crux of what I talk about in my book. And if you claim to be Christian, what you talk about at church on Sunday. If you're talking about Jesus and about how he commands us to love, to serve, to be humble, to be meek, it all kind of rolls together. Because, my friend, silence is complicity, and we teach our children through example. If we want them to be complicit in what is happening in the world, if we want them to stand up for values, what values they should stand up for, how to do so, we are the first and foremost example to our children. And I want to preface this episode with the fact that courage to speak up, to step out, to not allow what is harmful and wrong and un-Christlike feels terrible. Especially right before you do it, as you anticipate doing something courageous, feels awful. It only feels good after, at least for me. Because there is usually risk with courage, and the more courage and bravery that something requires, typically the more risk that is involved. And that means potential loss. This episode is claiming my stance on values that we should all be instilling in our homes. And I tried to think of a lot of different titles for this episode. And here's some fun ones that I came up with. How to fight fascism in your home. How to stand for all people like Christ did. Knowing it's bad, but not knowing what to do. Showing kids your courage. Parenting examples of good citizenship. Christ-like love that is the hardest, with like a nice little semicolon. It's called Love Thine Enemies. I kind of like that one. Provoked but still kind. That's another good one. Love thy neighbor and other lessons for your kids to learn through your example. These are a lot of fun titles that I thought of for this episode because this is the general sense of what I am trying to convey. And I want to be extremely clear before we start this episode that this is not a dig on any political party. This is a call for unity. I believe that at the core, first of all, our founding fathers did not mean for there to be two political parties. When they set up the system that they set up, they wanted many political parties because the more diversity, the stronger we are. We need different opinions, and we need to all take our turn to put those opinions into place. And so I want to be very clear. This is not, I hate the current administration dig, because this is what turns me off on everything that I am seeing in the news and social media and family and friend conversations. We do not need more division. We need more unity. And this is a very scary thing to do, and it takes a lot of courage. Because when you have a loss of social trust, when you have strong political parties that are very polarizing, statistically, you lose social trust because it's us against them. And then we don't really know who they are. And so then we mistrust everyone, and we doubt everyone, and we question everyone. And that's very isolating and very scary. And when that happens, we tend to not behave our best. And this comes in micro or very small, like within ourselves or in our homes, and in macro, as we see playing out on the world stage. Because if we can have institutions with strong sets of standards, like within ourselves, like I honor what I say, I will get up at 6 a.m. and I will have my morning meditation and go for my walk, and I'll be in bed by 9:30, and I do that, then you have a lot of trust and you feel very safe. That's an example of the smallest micro example. It can also be within a family. Like if your child says, I will do my chores because that is what the standard is in the family, and then they don't do those chores, you don't trust them. Or if you're constantly saying, I promise I'll be on time, but you're never actually on time, they're not going to trust you. Or if you say you can tell me anything and then you blow up at them when they tell you something that you don't want to hear, it's a loss of trust, a loss of that sense of safety. And so we have these sets of standards in the world. Like we trust our government to abide by the Constitution. And when that doesn't happen, we do not feel safe. And when people do not feel safe, it ignites their nervous system. And when we go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, crazy things can happen. When standards within an institution aren't met, again, it can be as in micro as, I promised myself that I wouldn't eat sugar this week. Or a partnership of responsibility between you and your partner. When those standards aren't met, then there is all of a sudden a loss of responsibility. Meaning, when your kid really makes you mad because they fell through with what they said again, then guess what? You don't feel responsible to take them to the movie this weekend like you promised them. Has that ever happened? Or your partner, your spouse, lets you down or doesn't follow through. Or maybe you're divorced and you're trying to manage with an ex and they never hold up the standards within the divorce decree, so you feel no responsibility to hold up your portion. It's like fighting fire with fire. And what happens is that we end up doing what we accuse our enemies of. We become like them in our own version. And let me explain to you how this happens both in micro and macro. And I want to bring examples of all of these things in the small and the big so that you can see, because I believe everything exists in really small ways, because it is those small foundations that build society, culture, countries, the world. Couple examples in micro and macro for this. Let's imagine that our teen lies all the time. It drives us crazy. So we trash talk them. We tell everybody how obnoxious it is. We tell our mom, we tell our hairdresser, we tell their friends' parents that they're dirty little liars and that we cannot trust them. Well, guess what? Now we and our child are both using words poorly. And chances are good that your trash talk gets back to your kid. So then we lie that we didn't tell our friends what they are now being passive aggressive towards our child about, alluding to the fact that they know how naughty our child is to them. We have no idea because we don't want our kid to know that we were trash talking them to the whole neighborhood. Or in macro, we accuse the other political side of not being Christ-like. So we get upset, we judge them, we condemn them. We see them as one-dimensional, awful sinners, which we all are on some dimension. So we can't be their friends anymore because they aren't behaving in Christ-like ways. Essentially, we're kicking them out of our friendships, our churches, our social circles, which ironically is not very Christ-like. At least the one that I read about in the Bible. I don't know. So we have this thing in society, and it is a social construct that exists before I ever knew about it. It is called the I, we, I responsibility, and it swings in the group. So it goes, I am the most important, to we are the most important, and then back to I am the most important. And essentially, when it goes to I am the most important, society starts to break down, and it gets bad enough until it swings back to the we are the most important, which means I forego certain things that are very self-centered or egocentric for the greater group. Because the group's health is actually in my best interest over having this individual need. In micro, this could be like choosing what restaurant to eat at for dinner. I don't know if you have this conversation, but every time we want to take the kids out to eat, some kids really love one specific restaurant. Like I have 2 kids that love a place called Holy Taco. It's delicious. But I have a few kids that do not like Holy Taco. And then guess what? Some of us really like a burger, and I have a couple of kids, 2 of my daughters, do not like burgers. So the I-we conundrum. Can I be selfless and give up for the greater good experience of the group? That maybe I will just get a salad instead of a burger at the burger place since I don't like burgers or whatever. It is the I, we, I. And then in society, this can go with social structure. The Western world is typically rather egocentric. I before the group. And a lot of what is happening is very I-centric. Like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, all of these social structures, like national park rangers, people who work the parks, those are very we-centered. And when the pendulum swings all the way over to I, that can be beneficial in some ways and harmful in others. But society is constantly swinging between I, we, and then I, and then we. And we have to be really mindful in the choices that we make. I firmly believe that sometimes some things are appropriate to be I in situations, and some things are appropriate to be we in situations. But we need to look down the road and see what creates goodness overall, and then make that choice accountably. When you can look at, and I'm just going to use Republicans and Democrats for the sake of clean explanation, but you can put in any two opposing groups that you want. And I like when you have two groups or multiple groups, look at the goal. When you can look at what they are seeking for as an end result, it is easier to feel aligned with that person. And let me go to a couple, okay? You have two people raising children, and they can be divorced or still married or never married. But you have two people, biological parents, adopted parents, whatever it is, raising a family. Now, I coach parents all the time. I actually love it when I get the two partners coming to calls. And it's funny because they will fight over how to do things. You're so hard on the kids. You never give them a break. You're always just writing them. And then that parent will say, well, you're so easy on the kids. They're never going to learn accountability. You're just a doormat. Or in their communication, typically couples that are having communication issues, when I coach them, we have a runner and an aggressor. So you have one person running from an uncomfortable conversation. They shut down, they leave the room, they won't respond. And then you have an aggressor that feeds off of that perceived disconnect or lack of caring, and they double down. They follow the person around the house. They blow up their phone. They try to get the person to communicate. They get angry, they get loud, while the other person gets more and more quiet. And whatever the situation is, I can always take those two people back to what's our goal here? And it's always the same goal, but they have very different ways of trying to achieve that goal. And that is largely created by their family of origin and how they were brought up. So, with the aggressor and the chaser in communication, both people desperately want to be seen and heard and to feel safe in the relationship. They're desperate for it. But one person, largely because of how they were raised, shuts down because that's the safest way. And the other person, largely because of how they were raised and their personality, gets big and loud. I don't know why these people marry each other, but they often do. And we have this conundrum because one parent is so upset and so loud, and the other person is so upset and so quiet. And so they both want to communicate. They both want to be seen and heard, but they go about it in very different ways. And a lot of that is things that can be rewired, and we can fix these things through conversations. I love seeing parents start to communicate again. And let's go to the example of the parents who can't see eye to eye. We have one perceived doormat parent who just lets the kid get away with anything. And then we have the really hard-nosed parent. Well, both parents really love the kid and really want the kid, the ultimate goal for their child, to feel loved, to feel safe, and to be a functional, healthy, happy human. But they both have very different ways in going about procuring that goal. It is the same in politics. We have, again, for just the sake of conversation, Republicans and Democrats. And I try to assume the best out of people because that makes me feel better inside. And I think that that's how Christ chooses to see all of us too. He sees the goodness in us. And so when I see Democrats fighting for their cause that they feel is just and good, and I see Republicans doing the same thing, they both have the end goal of trying to make a nation that is good that they would want their kids to grow up in. And they have vastly different opinions of how to go about that. But when I can look at everybody actually wants the same thing, every human, it doesn't matter what nation, nationality, race, gender, we all want to feel safe and loved and have a good community around us. This is ultimately what we want. And some people go about it by procuring riches and power. And that is because of how their lens on life has been shaped through experience. Some people seek it through creature comforts. But we all seek it in our own different way. And when we can look at the big picture of everybody is trying to feel safe and create an environment that is quality for their family and their loved ones and their community, we can relate. And when we can relate to one another, things change. And I know that seems like a stretch politically right now because it is so very polarized. But I have seen this in the micro countless times as I coach parents who are on polar opposites of how to go about parenting or how to communicate or how to solve financial differences or whatever it is. And they can do it with this specific set of skills. You're both in the same thing. And when we can heal our wounds, and I've done episodes on this, the process of being able to close the gap on the two polarized ends, or at least to get them to move closer, is a two-step process. You drop your pride and you heal your wounds. And you can't do this for the other person. You have to only do it for yourself. And trust that they will do it for themselves. But our work is ours and their work is theirs. Now, when we look at our parenting partner or the opposing political party, it is easy to say that we know better. And I just want to say, we all know better. But guess what? You might be smarter than the other guy or the other parent, but you are not better than them because nobody is better than another human. We are all of infinite value and of infinite worth. And no person is just one thing or one stereotype. So when we see video clips of those screaming crazy liberals or those redneck MAGAs or those parents that are this or that kind of stereotype, that is very one-dimensional, and nobody is one dimension. Hi there. I just want to pause and let you know if you are struggling to make sense of your teen's behaviors, emotions are running wild, and you're looking to turn things around to have the family you dreamed of while rocking them to sleep, I would love to talk to you. I want to give you a special, powerful gift. 30 minutes with me, my friend. You'll walk away with more confidence, clarity, and understanding of what the issue is and your next best step in resolving any situation you bring to me. It's completely free. I love families and want to help yours be wildly happy and successful. Book this call by visiting my website, heatherfraser.com. Remember, Fraser is spelled with a Z-I in the middle. And don't worry, the link is also in the show notes. I look forward to meeting and helping you. None of us are one-dimensional. I like yoga, but is that my life? No. I like to cook. Is that my life? No. I am a mother. Is that all that I am? Also, no. And it's interesting how when we perceive someone as an enemy, they're very one-dimensional. They are a race. They are a political party. They are a different nationality. Interesting fun fact. Once upon a time, there were my parents. And my parents, like many of their generation, have a lot of thoughts and feelings. Maybe one of my parents in particular. Of course, this is all once upon a time. And said parent had a neighbor who happened to be from the Middle East. They got to know the said neighbor. They loved said neighbor. But then also, this parent, hypothetically, or once upon a time rather, would say really awful things about the nationality and those people that was their neighbor. How can this be? How can we see people as individuals, but then condemn them collectively? And yet this is what we do. And in micro, we do this with, oh, well, yeah, the Johnsons are always like that. They're habitually late. Or that family is weird. They don't eat sugar. And they're really into, whatever, soccer. Or we generalize and categorize one another. And we'll even do this to our children. You're the athletic child. You are the secretive, recluse child. You are the outgoing, gregarious, charismatic child. And while nationalities or personality traits definitely are things that make people up, we cannot reduce humans to one or two or three characteristics. Because when we do this, it is so easy to dehumanize them. And this ties right into what I was saying about when we look at the goals. Every human on earth, when you bring it down to the very core thing, we all want the same thing: to feel loved and safe. And we go about doing this in very different ways. And like I mentioned, how we can heal the division or the polarization is by seeing each other as multifaceted people, which means we have to give up some of the lens or the paradigm in which we are choosing to view them, to see them more as Christ sees them. And I use the word Christ because he is my divine redeemer. But if you have a deity that you look to, just plug in the name of that deity when I say the word Christ. So when we can choose to see one another as our divine creator sees us, then it is easier to perhaps see their perspective. Now, of course, not everyone embraces divine. Some people do embrace darkness. And that is certainly their choice. And the way that our earth experience is structured, people can do that. And we have consequences, and I believe that there are divine consequences for our actions and choices, and yet we still get to make them. And so the whole point of this conversation with you and I, and that I hope carries into your homes, is that we do not get so stuck on other people's choices that we forfeit our own, and that we play into the hands of divisiveness and anger and hatred, because these are the things that destroy families and society and thus the world. We must, my friend, show our children how to love when it is hard, how to apply grace to our enemies. And this does not mean being a doormat or permissive. How this looks in its most powerful stance is by not focusing on how they are using their agency, but how we are using ours. Are we loving unconditionally? And again, that does not mean permitting harm. Loving unconditionally is standing up for our neighbor who is marginalized. Unconditionally loving is loving our enemy. Unconditionally and Christ-like loving is being like Christ in the most difficult situations. My favorite set of scripture is actually the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And if you haven't read them lately, I invite you to brush up on them again if you're into Jesus, because it is Him walking on the earth, loving, teaching, and not being permissive. And so we can follow His example, we can learn from His parables and teachings how to apply His love and His example in our lives. And can I just tell you that it is so very hard? And when it is hard because we dislike so much what is happening, whether it is a beloved friend who is being abused by an ex-partner, or a beloved friend whose child is struggling, or our child who doesn't want to talk to us and hates us because we've done it all wrong and we've ruined their life. Or we live next to somebody who has political signs in their yard that we strongly disagree with. This is when it is the most important to love. And can I just say, again, seeing these things in micro, within one's self, within one's marriage, and then within one's home, I can greatly attest to the concept that the family is, in fact, the most important structure in our nation and in our world. Because what we produce in micro, in our homes, how we speak to one another, how we convey that love and that courage to stand for what is right, to say the hard things, whether that is calling out our child in the most loving behavior or having conversations with our neighbor to understand their political lens without judgment, without animosity, but just open-hearted understanding. This is how change begins. And if you need help doing this, I'm here for you. I'm just a click away.